In a world where data analytics is becoming the cornerstone of business decisions, the demand for skilled data analysts has skyrocketed and will continue to grow. And at the heart of a data analyst toolkit, Excel. Why? Because 80% of a data analyst's time is spent gathering and cleaning data, and there's no better, more accessible tool than Excel for this job. I'm Minda Tracy, and over the past 15 plus years, I've taught millions of people how to use Excel through my videos, courses, and blog. And for my contribution to the Excel community, I've been recognized by Microsoft as an MVP every year since 2014. Today, I'm going to show you how mastering Excel in just 28 days can set you apart in this high demand field. Let's break it down into manageable goals, starting with the basics and moving towards advanced analytics. And to help you get your skills up to speed, there's a link in the video description where you can download the practice files that accompany this video. Now before we start, I just want to point out that the pace will be quite fast to give you an overview. Then you can re-watch the video, slow down the playback speed if required, and pause and rewind and follow along step by step. Now I'm assuming you already have the Excel basics down. If not, check out this video first. The first goal is to tackle the essential skill of data cleaning, because rarely do you get data that's error-free and in the perfect format. Here I have a flight booking dataset, and overall it's not bad because it's already in the correct tabular layout. I'll start by going to the View tab, and then I'm going to turn on the freeze panes for the top row. And then on the Data tab, the ribbon, I'm going to add filter buttons to each column. Notice this first column has labels missing down the rows. Now we need to fill those empty cells in order to analyze the data properly. So I'm going to go to the next column across and Control and down arrow to go to the very bottom. You can see it's selected there, and then Shift, and I'm going to click on cell A1. It's just going to select all the cells in column A up to the bottom of my data set. Now with the keyboard shortcut Control G, I'm going to open the Go To dialog box and click on Special. And then in here I can select blanks to select all the blank cells in this column. Now with them all selected, I'm going to type an equals and then up arrow to select the cell above, and then Control and Enter. And now all of my empty cells are filled. Now I don't need this formula in this column, so I'm going to Control Shift down arrow, Control C and Control Shift V to paste as values. Now if you don't have Microsoft 365, then you can paste values via the Home tab. Under the Paste drop-down, we've got Paste Values here. Next, I want to join the Departure and Destination fields together into a Route field. So I'm going to select column K and then Control and plus to insert a column. This will be called Route. And to join them together, simply equals the first one, and then use the ampersand join operator and select the next one. Now we have our route. I'll double-click to copy it down. And again, I don't need this to update, so rather than having a ton of formulas in my file, I'm going to copy them and Control-Shift-V to paste as values. And that's just going to help keep my file size small. Now this dataset contains bookings that didn't complete, and we can tell which ones didn't complete because they're a 0, and those that did complete are a 1. So we're going to start by sorting the dataset smallest to largest. And then I'm going to filter it to only display zeros, which are those that didn't complete. And then I'm just going to Control Shift down arrow to select them all. And then we're going to delete those rows. Now I can clear the filter, and all we have left are bookings that did complete. That's all I need to clean here, but often you'll start with a way messier data, so I highly recommend checking out this comprehensive guide on initial data setup and cleaning techniques. I want to also point out that if this was a recurring task, then I can automate the data cleaning with Power Query, and we'll look at that later. Next, let's look at some essential Excel functions for data analysis. I'll start by formatting my data in an Excel table with the keyboard shortcut Control-T. My table has headers, so I'll click OK. And this is just going to make it quick and easy to reference and write formulas. Notice we have a new tab called Table Design, and up here I can give my table a new name. I'll call it Booking Data, and press Enter. The first function we want to look at is the if function, which enables you to make logical comparisons within your data. For example, here I want to identify bookings as premium if they include extra baggage, preferred seating, and in-flight meals, indicating a higher level of services required. So I'm going to add a column header for service type. Notice the table automatically expands to incorporate the new column. And in here, I'm going to write my if formula. So if the sum of these three cells is greater than 0, then this must be a premium service. So we'll return premium. Otherwise, it's just standard. And I'll close parentheses. Now, before I press enter, if we look at the formula in the formula bar, you can see the table structured references are populated in the sum formula. And that allows me to reference cells by name, making it easier to read. So I'll press enter, and that formula gets copied down the column. Now again, my data set's not going to update, so I'm going to Control-Shift down arrow to select them all, Control-C to copy, Control-Shift-V to paste. It's a good idea to get into the habit of pasting formulas as values if they never need updating. This just makes it easier for Excel to work with the data. Next, you'll want to master statistical functions like count, max, min, etc. And more importantly, the conditional statistical functions like SUMIFs, COUNTIFs, etc. Let's take a look. Let's say I want to count how many bookings have extra baggage fees. We can do that with COUNTIFs equals count. Now there's an if and an ifs. If is one criteria, ifs is multiple. I'm going to go with ifs, which you can use if you only have one criteria as well, but it also allows it to expand. So my criteria range is whether they have extra baggage. Now because my data is in a table, I can hover my mouse above the column label until it shows the down arrow and then left click to select the column. So that's my criteria range, and my criteria is whether it equals 1. 1 is yes for extra baggage, 0 is no for extra baggage. Of course, because this data set has values of 1 for extra baggage, I could just sum the column and I get the same result. But with COUNTIFs, I can also expand the criteria to include the route. For example, I'll type in AKLKUL, which is Auckland, Kuala Lumpur, and now I can include the route, which is my criteria range, and this cell contains my criteria. And now I can see that there are 425 bookings for the Auckland, Kuala Lumpur route that want extra baggage. Those are just a couple of essential functions. Check out this video for more. Next, we'll look at pivot tables, which are one of the most powerful tools in Excel for data analysis. Let's say you've been tasked to analyze the data and answer the following questions. Which route has the biggest demand for extra baggage? And what is the most popular time to fly? Now with a cell in my table selected, I'm going to go to the Insert tab, Pivot Table. It's detected the whole table range and the name, and it's going to put it on a new worksheet, which is perfect. I'll click OK. And we'll rename this sheet Analysis, just double click to rename it. And then I'm going to left click and drag my pivot table field list over closer to the pivot table. And because I have a lot of fields to work with, I'm going to change the layout so that the fields are on the left and my areas are on the right. So here I want to see the route by rows. I want extra baggage in my columns, and I want to sum the number of passengers, and I also want to count the extra baggage. So that's on my fields. Let's right click on the extra baggage and we're going to summarize values by count. And this enables us to count how many bookings didn't request extra baggage as well as how many did, which enables me to calculate the percentage of bookings with extra baggage and without. So I'm going to right click, show values as percentage of row total. And now I can see, for example, the Auckland Kuala Lumpur route, 74.96% of bookings requested extra baggage. Let's sort this by the total sum of passengers. So right click, sort. I'm going to look largest to smallest. Now there's a huge number of routes, so let's narrow it down. I'm going to click on the drop down here, and under value filters, we're going to go down to the bottom top 10, and let's show the top 20 items based on the sum of passengers. I'll click OK. That's more manageable. So now we have a table of data we can work with further. Let's look at another example. I'll go back to my data set and we'll insert another pivot table. And we'll put this on the existing worksheet that we already have one pivot table on. It's going to go across to the right and we'll place it here. And let's just scroll across to the right. So we've got our pivot table on the left and our field list on the right. Now here I want to see the flight hour in the rows, the flight day in the columns, and the number of passengers in the values. Let's add some conditional formatting. I'm just going to select the values excluding the totals, and on the Home tab, Conditional Formatting, Color Scales. And that instantly gives us a heat map that shows us what the most popular times and least popular times are. Let's add it for the grand total on the rows and for the columns. So now we can see the most popular day is Wednesday, and the most popular times are early morning through to mid-afternoon. Of course, these numbers will be influenced by the number of flights at these times and therefore the seats available. A better measure might be the passenger load factor, which is the percentage of seats occupied by paying passengers. But we don't have this information, so this will do for the purpose of practicing. Speaking of which, in the file that you can download from the video description, I've included more questions you can answer for extra practice. As we move into the second week, we'll dive into more advanced Excel techniques. This is all about automating repetitive tasks, working with larger data sets, and extracting more nuanced insights from your data. Starting with the ability to efficiently connect and analyze external data sources, which is essential for staying competitive. Excel's Power Query tool automates importing, cleaning, and transforming data from a wide range of sources, including external databases, web pages or APIs, OneDrive, SharePoint, CSV or Excel files, to name a few. The great thing about learning Power Query in Excel is these skills are transferable to Power BI, which is another skill you'll need as a data analyst. So, learning Power Query in Excel will be time well spent and will enable you to hit the ground running with Power BI. Let's look at how we can use Power Query to automate the cleaning of this data. I'll start by formatting it in an Excel table with the keyboard shortcut Control-T. My table has headers, so I'll click OK. Notice we've got the Contextual Table Design tab now available, and over here I can give this table a name. I'll call it Booking Data, and this name will feed through to Power Query and later my data model. Now to load it into Power Query, I want to go to the Data tab, and then in the Get and Transform Data group, I want From Table Range. The first thing it will do is fill these null cells with the name of the trip type. With the column selected, on the Transform tab of the ribbon, we're going to fill down. That's that job done. Next, in Booking Complete, the zeros are bookings that didn't complete, and any with a 1 did complete. I'm going to remove all the incomplete bookings by deselecting 0 and click OK. Next, over on the right, I have columns with my departure and destination airport codes, but I want to join these columns together to create a route. So with the column selected, I'm going to add a column, Merge Columns. I don't want a separator, but we'll call this column a route and click OK. Now it'll be on the very end. We can left click and drag it, move it over beside the destination column. Next, I want to identify bookings as premium if they include extra baggage, preferred seating, or in-flight meals, indicating a higher level of service is required. So I'm going to hold down Shift and select these 3 columns, and then again on the Add Column tab, I'm going to add a standard column that adds these columns together. So there's my new column that's added them together. Any rows with a 0 don't have any extra requirements, and any rows with a number 1 through 3 require one of these extra services. Now in order to classify them, I'm going to edit the formula up here and add some if criteria. So what we see here is the formula that adds the columns together. I'm just going to add an if in front of it, and then at the end, if it's greater than 0, then I want it to return the text premium, else it's standard. And then this last argument specifies the data type, so I want the type to be text. And I'll press enter, and now I have my column that contains whether the booking is premium or standard. Now I can rename this column by double clicking, or I can just edit it up here in the formula bar, and we'll call this service type. And press enter. Okay, that's all my data cleaning done. Now the great thing about using Power Query to do this work is it records all the steps, so if you need to update this data with new records, you can simply click one button to refresh it and it will automatically run through all these steps again. So I'm ready to close and load on the Home tab, close and load, and I'm going to choose Close and Load 2, and that's going to allow me to specify where to load the data. I only want a connection, but I'm going to add it to the data model, which is Power Pivot. I'll click OK. And we can see the queries and connection pane is opened and it's loaded 7,478 rows of data. Now if you need to open this pane, you'll find it on the Data tab of the ribbon, Queries and Connections. Now on the other sheet in this file called Flight Duration, I've got a list of my routes and the number of hours each route takes. And I also want to load this into my data model. So I'm going to use Power Query again to go from table range. Now I don't need to clean the data, so I'm just going to go straight to Close and Load To. And we'll create a connection and add it to the data model. And you can see there's now 549 rows loaded, so that's that job done. Now I also have a CSV file with more information about the airport codes that I want to load to my Power Pivot data model. And we'll use Power Query to get the data from text/CSV. I'll select the file and click Import. It hasn't detected the delimiter correctly, so on the drop down here I'm going to change it to semicolon. And now we can see the different columns in this CSV file. Now I don't want all of the columns. What I want is the airport code, the airport name, city name and country name. So let's go and click Transform Data, and that will load it into Power Query and open the editor where I can make some changes before loading it. So holding down Shift, I'm just going to select the first 4 columns and then right click, Remove Other Columns. That's tidied that up. Let's give this a better name. We'll call it Airport Codes and press Enter. Okay, that's also ready to close and load. So we'll go Close and Load To, only create connection and add it to the data model. Click OK. And you can see that's also been loaded. And we're done with the Power Query work. And I never need to open Power Query again. If I need to update any of the files or data Power Query is referencing, then I can just click the Refresh All button on the Data tab of the ribbon. If you're ready to become a data analyst today, I have courses on all the essential Excel skills such as advanced Excel formulas, pivot tables, Power Query, Power Pivot, which we'll look at next, and dashboards. They take you on a logical path with support from me when you need it, so you can confidently call yourself a data analyst. You'll find links to all the courses in the video description and pinned comment. Next on your journey to becoming a data analyst is Power Pivot and DAX. Power Pivot enables you to model big data across multiple tables, and the DAX formula language enables you to write advanced formulas to analyze the data in pivot tables. Power Pivot is also built into Power BI, so with Power Query and Power Pivot skills, you're 2/3 of the way to mastering Power BI. You'll find the Power Pivot tool on the dedicated Power Pivot tab, but also here on the Data tab, Manage Data Model, and this is going to open the Power Pivot window, and here I can see my separate tables of data all loaded. We can also go into Diagram View, and here I can create my relationships. So on the left I've got my booking data. This is my airport codes and flight duration. In order to create the relationships, I need to identify the columns that the tables have in common. The booking data, I've got a route column, and I can create a connection between my flight duration table using the route column in both tables. You can see I now have a connector line joining them together. In the airport codes table, the common column I have is airport code, and over here I have the airport code in my depart column. So I can left click and drag to create a relationship between those two tables. And with that, we're ready to do some analysis. So I can close down Power Pivot, and then on the Insert tab of the ribbon, click on the Pivot Table drop down, and here I can create a pivot table from my data model. I'll insert it on a new worksheet, and you'll notice in the field list, I have lots of tables I can choose from. The ones with the orange silos are the tables that are in my data model, and they're the ones I want to work with. We'll start with the route. I want to look at the route in the rows, and I want to look at the number of passengers in each route. So under booking data, we'll bring passengers down into values. And let's also look at the flight duration. We'll bring that into the values as well. Let's just move this across. So now I have the flight duration and number of passengers. Now a common metric airlines use is the available seat miles. Now I don't have the number of seats available, but I have the passenger numbers. So let's calculate the number of passenger hours, assuming that the longer the flight, the more revenue. We can do that by multiplying the flight duration by the number of passengers. And to do that, I can go to the Power Pivot tab, and under Measures, I'm going to create a new measure. And we'll use the DAX formula language to create a measure called passenger hours. and that's going to take the sum of the flight duration, so we can just select it here, times the sum of the passenger numbers. So number of passengers, close parentheses. We'll check the formula. Great, we've got no errors. Now down here I'm going to apply some formatting, so we'll use the comma separator and no decimal places. And I'll click OK. And now we have passenger hours in the pivot table as well. Now I don't need the original column's flight duration and number of passengers in order for this formula to calculate. So I'm going to remove those and we'll just tidy it up a little bit. Next, I'm going to right click and sort this largest to smallest so we can see the highest passenger hours at the top. Besides pivot tables, effective data visualization involves using charts and graphs to represent our findings clearly and compellingly. Let's explore how to create dynamic charts that align with our pivot table analysis to visually communicate insights. Let's go and insert another pivot table using the data model, and we'll place it there. I'll click OK. Now here I want to find the country name in my rows, and then I want to use my measure that's called passenger hours, and you can see it there. It's got the function beside it to indicate that it's a measure. So let's put that in the values. Now I've got a blank here, so I must have some bookings that don't map the airport code to a country, and it's fairly immaterial, so I'm going to filter it out. Obviously you'd investigate this if this was real analysis. Now because map charts don't support pivot tables directly, to insert the map chart I need to copy the data. I'm going to Ctrl-Shift-V to paste it as values, and then I'm going to insert a map chart for this data, and then we're going to right click and go into select data. We're going to change the data range here to reference the pivot table. I'll click OK, and now we can see the map chart is referencing the pivot table. I don't need this data anymore, so I'm just going to select it and delete it. Okay, let's do a little bit of formatting. I'm going to remove the chart title, and then with the chart selected, I'm going to Ctrl-1 to open the formatting. Let's bring it over here, and under the series options, I'm going to change the map area to only show regions with data. That just allows me to focus in on the areas of most interest. Let's put the legend at the top to give the chart some more space. Let's select the pivot table again, and we'll insert a slicer for the flight day. Right click the flight day field, add a slicer. Now it's behind the field list, so let's close that. There's my flight days. Unfortunately, they're sorted alphabetically. I have got a fix for this, but I haven't got time to demo it in this video. However, I do cover it in detail in my Power Pivot course. Now, before we start filtering the pivot table, I'm going to right click and go into Pivot Table Options. On the Display tab, I'm going to check the box for Show Items with No Data on Rows. That's just going to ensure that the range being referenced by the map chart always has the same number of rows, even if we filter the data and some countries don't return results. So now we can see the variation in the number of passengers by country, by day. We can also select multiple days, left-clicking and dragging or holding Control to select non-contiguous buttons. Let's clear the slicer, and our map chart now displays all the data. And from here, the next step is to master dynamic dashboards that enable your stakeholders to make business decisions at a glance. To truly master Excel for data analytics, the next step is to immerse yourself in practical projects as much as possible. Set up a structured practice routine with different types of data to analyze each day. For instance, one day could be dedicated to financial data, another to social media metrics, and so on. The aim is to challenge yourself with different data types and analytical problems to broaden your skills. On the screen, you can see a list of the resources for finding relevant data. These platforms offer a variety of data sets that are perfect for honing your analytical skills across different industries and topics. However, the limitation with these data sets is they don't give you any practice at cleaning data, which will be one of the main aspects of your role. For that, you can join online forums like ours that has a dedicated group for Power Query, where people share data files and real-world questions. Forums will also give you the opportunity to learn from others as you browse through past questions that have been answered. Okay, now it's time for your first practice. In this video, you can get a practice file and perform a quick analysis with me. I'll see you there.